I want to share some ideas with you about how to alleviate stress and anxiety and these things that we can oftentimes perseverate on, right? And where this comes from is about an hour ago, I was on a sales call and working with a customer who was very, became very upset. And by nature, I do not like conflict. And this just, it was the last call of my day. I was about to do a podcast interview and it just had my heart in all sorts of different ways. And I was feeling very discontent, very anxious, and I just hate when things are that way, right? Maybe you can relate. There is just like that one thing just really irked you, and it's just is hard to focus on anything else going on. And so, what I think is important to share is, of course, event plus response equals outcome. E plus R equals O. Always, what are we going to do about it? But more specifically, there's usually a question I ask myself and that I would encourage you to ask yourself, which is there anything that I can do about it? Right? Because oftentimes we find ourselves thinking about these things that are, in our heads, in our hearts, and we're just sitting there in our own, jail, if you will, just like mentally incapacitated to, to move forward. But what I find is that when I actually do something about it, it drastically helps. Right. And so the uncomfortable thing that I knew I had to do was call this individual. Right. So the four of us hung up. I wanted to call the one individual who, he's kind of the stakeholder, the decision maker, the driver of this whole thing. And I just wanted to talk to him about it. So and let him know that I'm on his team. Right. And, just make sure that he had the confidence to know that I'm working in his own best interest and working best on his behalf. And so, I kind of got my thoughts together, had some ideas about what I wanted to say, and made the call. And these are oftentimes nerve-wracking calls, just as I'm sure what dialing that number to make an uncomfortable phone call feels like, or have that uncomfortable conversation, right? Or have to bring up an uncomfortable subject. And so made the call, hearts racing, didn't answer. So I called right back and didn't answer, could not leave a voicemail, which was maybe a good thing. And it gave me some time to collect my thoughts a little bit more, send him a quick email, right? Say, hey, shoot me a quick call if you can. Here's my number. And then so I did some things immediately about it to try and make some sort of resolution for this, which, to you, is there something that you can do about it? Oftentimes the answer will be very clear, yes or no. And when that answer is yes, here's the other kind of scary thing is that oftentimes the thing that we know we should do is pretty scary and pretty uncomfortable. And that's the thing that we should definitely go do, right? Lean into that resistance and go make the uncomfortable call, have the uncomfortable conversation, go do the extra work that you said you were going to commit to doing, make the extra calls like you said you were going to do, right? All the things that, we essentially don't want to do. And so anyways, um, then I went about doing some other things and I was prepping for this, trying to prep for this podcast, but this was still in the back of my mind until I, took another action about it. And so, I thought about how can I, working on their side of the table, how can I help this individual too, just to know that I'm on his team. Right. And then I had another question from an old coach of mine, Mario, where that popped in my head of how could this actually be a good thing? I want to repeat that again because it's super important. And I've run into this scenario before with a very disgruntled customer. And I asked myself, how could this actually be a good thing? And the answer was very clear. Like, this is the opportunity to build an even stronger relationship, right? By showing what we do about the situation and how we handle it, serving them in their best interest. And so then, I had some ideas, reach out to a couple of people, had to move some things. And then, I sent over an email directly to him saying, hey, again, thanks for your time. But first, just want to say, like, you know, I it did not mean anything by XYZ. Don't mean to be, didn't mean to be too direct if that's, the way that it was taken. I don't mean to be insensitive by any ways. I just want to, you know, under promise and over deliver when possible. Right. And so, Then I put together, in an email, here's exactly the next steps that I took after our call, right? Showing them here's what I did, right? And clearly outlining that and clearly outlining what is the next step that I have in the calendar with the desired outcome that I believe to be in their best interest. So it was all that I could do, right? And then I emailed the other two on the side as well, saying, hey, here's what's going on. Here's what I sent, making sure everyone's on the same page, right? So the point for you is when there are those things that, are just not sitting right, ask yourself, is there something that you can do about it right now? If there is, go take that action. Go do it and do it now. Right? Oh, like start alleviating that stress right away through action rather than sitting there thinking, sitting in it, right? And also ask yourself, how could this actually be a good thing? It's a very important question because that answer can tell us a lot and it can totally reframe this from a negative to a positive. Right. And I think that the book behind me, right, going from negative to at least neutral with that question, right? Instead of negative, this is a bad situation. How could this actually be a good thing? Takes us to neutral. Now we're thinking, right? And then we can get to positive, which is okay, well, I can actually create and cultivate a deeper relationship. So I still don't know, what the response is going to be, but I have done everything within my control that I feel is right for myself, for them, for the customer, for our company, right? So I hope that helps you in whatever capacity, whether it's your work or career or relationships or your personal life, whatever it is. Hope you can take that, implement it. Is there anything you can do? Yes or no? If yes, take action. If no, let it go. Right. And then also, how could this actually be a good thing? And answer that. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Seeds of Success podcast. I appreciate you, as always, for tuning in, and I will see you on the next episode. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Seeds of Success podcast. If you got to the end of this episode, can you please do me a huge favor and leave a 5-star rating and review? This helps me be able to reach out to bigger guests and also be able to get access to special events and activities that otherwise would not be possible without your support. So if you could please take just 3 seconds and leave a 5-star rating and review, it would mean the world to me, and I will see you on the next episode.